Good evening and welcome to Free. My name is Noelle Wischkowski. I'm the community director here at Free. And to my right is Abby Alt.
Hello.
She is our home team lead, her and her husband. So thank you for doing that for us, Abby.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We're a community here of addicts and loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees, and we are breaking the silence of addiction while creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. So we just want to welcome our online community, whether you're joining us from your Free Circle, your Sober Living House, or the Elliptical, you're welcome here. So there's a couple things that we do, but before we get to that, there is something that we don't do.
That's right.
And the 5 o'clock service blew this out of the water, so you guys have a lot to live up to.
We're going to have to step it up.
So there's one thing that we don't do here, and it's 4 words, and on the count of 3, if y'all could shout it out. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. That's right. That was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
I think it was right up there with a 5.
I
5,
agree.
It was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So will you tell everyone what we do here?
Of course, I would love to. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Outside these doors, we do have welcome bags. They have some fresh roasted wagon coffee, as well as some free swag and a connect card, so you can connect with us, stay up to date on all the happenings here, like tomorrow. Tomorrow's our service day, so from 10 to 1, we will be doing projects here at Free. We're providing a barbecue. We're going to have hamburgers and hot dogs, and if you'd like to join us, show up at 10 o'clock. We are asking that you bring any rakes, lawn tools that you have, and if you wanted to bring a side dish, you're welcome to. It's not required, but come join us tomorrow for an active service.
So community and a barbecue.
Yeah,
like a good time.
Pretty good time. And then beginning this Tuesday, June 6th at 6 p.m., we are going to be having a book study hosted by Kavita and Jackie. It is Imitation Saints, and it is by, Accidental Saints by Nadia Bull-Weber. So that begins Tuesday at 6 and will be every Tuesday beginning June 6th. And then also we have an exciting development here. On Monday nights, our very own Maggie Barfoot hosts an incredible yoga class here at 6:15 in the big room.
It's no-cost yoga class if y'all haven't been there.
And it's sponsored by Colorado Artists in Recovery.
That's
it's
right.
Incredible. And we've had such a good turnout that we are actually going to be offering another class beginning Saturday, June 24th at 11:15. And we have a video from Maggie to talk a little bit more about it.
Well, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Here's Maggie Barfoot.
Hi, Free family. I'm Maggie. I am teaching the Trauma-Informed Yoga, Meditation, and Breathwork class here at Free Spiritual Community on Monday nights at 6:15 and now on Saturdays at 11:15 a.m. So it's really important in your healing process to get connected to your body. We hold trauma on a cellular level in our bodies. And so when we are trying to heal through 12 steps and counseling, we can intellectually process it, but we're still holding it into our bodies. And so in my class, you get to help get connected to anything that's still there, and learn how to process it through in your 12-step groups with your therapist and so on. I also do a lot of nervous system regulation. So every time you have experienced a stressful event, your body goes into fight or flight mode. And so we need to help our nervous system learn that we're safe again. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, so like Abby said, Monday nights, it's already going on at 6:15 in this very room, and then starting June 24th at 11:15 a.m. in this room again, a second no-cost trauma-informed yoga class. So they're a good time. Well, we start every week with celebrations. We want to lift up the good and celebrate with you. So whether it's a new baby or a sober anniversary, a wedding anniversary, raise your hand. Austin will get the mic on this side, and Mickey's got the mic on the right side, and we'll celebrate with you. So we'll take 3 minutes for celebrations. Go ahead.
My name is Sabrina, and I got 30 days yesterday.
Oh, that's incredible. Congratulations on 30 days sober. We'll lift that up.
I'm Kai, and I have 71 days.
71 days. We'll lift that up for sure. Congratulations.
My name is John. I'm a meth addict. I've been clean 11 days now.
Awesome. John, we're glad you're here. Congratulations.
I'm Bill. I have 30 days yesterday also.
Right on, Bill. That's incredible.
I'm Corey, but most people call me Bama, and today's my first day, by the way.
Welcome, Bama. We're glad you're here with us tonight.
Hi, Diana, alcoholic. On May 19th, I had 4 years of sobriety.
Oh, my goodness. What a milestone. 4 years.
Hi, my name is Selena Garcia, and I am 6 days clean.
Right on, Selena.
Okay, and we are David and Erica celebrating 11 years of marriage yesterday.
Congratulations. We love y'all. So glad you're part of the community.
I'm here from out of town, and I'm visiting. I got sober in Denver.
Welcome.
And so I won't be here to share this, but I celebrate 4 years clean and sober on June 24th, and I'm here with my sponsor who walked me through the 12 steps.
Oh my gosh.
So,
can I tell you something? That's incredible. I will have 4 years on June 24th as well. So that's awesome.
My name's Ricky, and I have 23 days clean off of fentanyl.
Woo! Yeah, we'll lift that up for sure. 23 days. Congratulations. We're glad you're here. Anyone else? We've got 50 seconds. Oh, we got one in the back. Mickey's doing some cardio.
Yeah, my name is Jensen, celebrating 5 weeks sober.
Right on, Jensen. That's incredible.
I'm Sterling, and I just got my breathalyzer installed to reinstate my license, so that's kind of cool.
That's a big step. That's a big deal. Congratulations. It's a lot of paperwork. Anyone else? We got 15 seconds left. Oh, we got one right here. Woo! Congratulations, Bailey. Mickey, are you going to join me up here? Oh. How are you? I hear our child crying from outside, so that's good. Kira's got her.
Too.
All right, well, let's give with our celebrations for our online community. Do you want to take the first one?
Sure.
Okay.
Kayla, celebrating 93 days sober and healthy recovery from a recent hit and run.
Lifting that up for sure. We have Roger celebrating Kayla's 93rd day. That's incredible.
Clifford, in April, I celebrated 3 years sober.
Wow, that's
Congratulations, Clifford.
So that red dot means that we're done here. So you
All
can
right.
sit down. Well, thank you. Yeah, you can just set it back there. Well, we are in week 5 of the series that we've been in called Ever Wonder Why. And tonight we're answering the question, why didn't God answer my prayers? So here's a quick video for y'all to check out.
Why? It's a simple question with no simple answers. Why do bad things happen? Why now? Why can't I stop? Or why are they throwing their life away? We've made it through hard times before, and I want to have faith, but I still wonder, why?
When I was 6 years old, I was sexually abused by someone in my life that was a person of trust. And statistics tell us that 1 in 4 children go through a similar trauma. And so like most young children who experience something like this, I locked it away in the back of my brain, and then I never thought about it again, because that's what I was told to do. You know, and I went years without seeing this person. And then one day when I was 12 years old, I was told that this person was going to come back. And I kind of went into this fight or flight mode, and I began to pray. And I prayed for God to keep me safe, and I prayed for him to keep this person away from me. I prayed for the courage to tell my parents what had happened, and I prayed for the situation to just go away. And God didn't answer any of those prayers. And so I came to the conclusion that he wasn't going to answer them, and so I kind of took measures into my own hands. You know, that self-will run riot. And so I went to my parents' medicine cabinet, and I grabbed a bottle of pills. And at 12 years old, I downed that entire bottle of pills. And I woke up at Littleton Adventist Hospital, and you see I downed so many pills that they couldn't pump my stomach, because if they did, I would ingest a lethal amount. So I was forced to drink liquid charcoal to kind of neutralize the medication. And then, you know, I found out that it was lithium. These pills were lithium, and so my kidneys started to fail. And so I woke up on dialysis, and I had these 2 tubes coming out below my collarbone, and I watched my blood come from my body into the machine right next to me to clean out the blood. And what's really important is that day I didn't want to kill myself. That's not a thought that went into my head. I just wanted to change the circumstances around me. I didn't want to be in the reality. And that was the first time that I turned to a substance to change those circumstances. And that was a behavior that stuck with me for years until I got sober. You know, we're in our 5th week of this series that we've been in on Ever Wonder Why. And we're closing the series out asking the question, why didn't God answer my prayers? See, the good news is that prayer can be incredibly powerful, but it can also be really confusing. I know that all of us have had a moment in life where we're just like, wow, God, you really showed up and showed out on that one. Like, you really answered my prayer and came through on that. And then at other times, we've prayed the same way with the same amount of faith and to the same God, and there was nothing. He didn't do what he should do or what we knew that he could do. And then we start to ask ourselves these questions like, well, did I do something wrong? Is he not listening to me? Is he mad at me? Does he not care? Prayer can be an incredibly powerful thing, but it can also be really confusing. And I remember sitting in my sponsor's living room in early sobriety. I was struggling with a lot of things, but one of the things that I was struggling with was this idea of God. And one of the things she told me is, Noelle, right now, there's only one thing you need to know about God, that there's a God and it's not you. There's a God and it's not me or you. And so before we understand the purpose of prayer, we first have to understand what prayer is not. The purpose of prayer is not for God to do our will. The purpose of prayer is to cultivate a relationship with God so we can do his will. And it's a humbling lesson to learn, you know, that it's our job to take care of God's kids and God's job to take care of us. There's this passage in the big book that really knocks this out of the park for us. And it says, next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal and we are his agents. And when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. So it's important that I understood my position versus God's position. And so naturally, I created a sports analogy around this, something that made sense to me. So if God is the principal and he's the Michael Jordan and he hires me as the agent, to represent him, to do his work and his bidding, am I out there negotiating $100 million deals on the first day? Probably not. But the real question is, am I doing it without talking to him first? No, of course not. I'm creating a relationship with him. I'm seeing his needs and his wants. Me as the agent, sitting quietly while the principal talks. So here's the good news for you and I. We don't have to do the thing that Michael Jordan does. We don't have to shoot a jump shot like Michael Jordan or a reverse layup like Michael Jordan. We shouldn't. We can take all the pressure off of our shoulders of doing God's job. We just need to do the footwork and stay out of the results business. So the first step to understanding why God didn't answer my prayer is understanding that first, there's a God, and it's not me or you. So that conversation in my sponsor's living room, it continued. Not only was I struggling with this whole God thing, but I had a lot of doubts about prayer. And she told me, Noelle, there's only 3 answers to genuine, authentic prayer. And the first is yes. The second is it's going to look different. And the third is you need to grow first. And what I began to understand that day was that when we pray and we don't get an immediate answer, it's not that God isn't answering our prayers. It's that God isn't answering our prayers in the way that we think he should. And that's a big difference. So tonight we're going to dive into the 3 ways that God answers prayers, because I believe it's a really good reminder for us that God's doing work in our lives and in our hearts, especially when we think we aren't getting a response. So his first answer to prayer, yes. Getting a yes to a prayer, it's pretty self-explanatory. And I'm sure all of y'all can recall a time where we prayed for something to happen and God exceeded our expectations, where we were overcome with gratitude. And it's really easy to be grateful when we're getting exactly what we want. But what about his second answer to prayer? It's going to look different. And so maybe in your case, even if it's something that you really want and you think it's for the best and it makes all logical sense, God just has something different in store for you. And maybe not just for you, but the people around you. One of the most emotional stories to me that illustrates this in Scripture is the Apostle Paul in the New Testament. He talks about a thorn in his flesh, and we don't know what that thorn was. Scholars tell us that it could have been an eye problem that he struggled seeing, or it could have been a migraine or malaria, and some said epilepsy. Some even think it was a person. Does anyone in here tonight have a thorn right now that's called a person? So we don't know what that thorn was, but we know that Paul prayed 3 times for God to lift this thorn from him, to alleviate him of this thorn. And we're not talking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but we're talking 3 long seasons of prayer. God, would you just take this away? I've seen you do the miraculous. I know that you can do this. This is tormenting me. Please take this from me. And this is Paul, a guy who preached the gospel across the Mediterranean basin for 30 years. And this is Paul, the guy who encountered and served God so faithfully at such a major price, through being beaten and stoned. This is Paul, a guy who wrote 1/3 of the New Testament. If y'all have a verse on a coffee mug, you can thank Paul for it. That's Paul's verse. And he prayed and he begged, and his motives were pure and his faith was strong. But God answered. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. God didn't do it. God didn't answer Paul's prayer. God is telling Paul that his plan and his goodness is made perfect in our weakness and in our brokenness. And we have to have faith in that. See, when Paul grasped this realization, he says, that is why I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, I am strong. Because God's strength and his goodness and his glory is made perfect in our weak moments. when we don't get what we want and when we don't understand and when things just turn out different. You know, I've been in this really incredible season of my life in the past year, like getting married and welcoming our baby girl into the world. I've watched this family that I've prayed for kind of bloom into existence. And at the end of February, we had a baby shower at my parents' house, the house that my parents have lived at for 25 years, my childhood home. And it was this really beautiful day. You know, all my close family and friends were there. And little did I know that was the last day that my parents, who have been married almost 40 years, were going to spend under the same roof. They've decided to get separated after almost 40 years of marriage. And so while my little micro family is blooming, this greater family is dissolving. You know, it's getting severed. It looks different. So there's this group text thread that we have. You know, my husband's on it, and my parents, my brother's wife. And we share pictures of our dogs or our kids or funny things at work. And it's kind of this only thread of normalcy through all of this chaos, that it's still just a piece of normalcy. And so a couple weeks ago, my dad, he sent out a text that my little 12-year-old cousin tried to take her life. A few months ago, it started with cutting herself, and then it had escalated really quickly. And what we know about cutting is it's this protector that comes out in a person that says, this pain, this cutting, this pain will distract me from a much greater pain within me. So I picked her up from her guitar lesson a couple Sundays ago, and we went to Voodoo's Donuts off South Broadway. And we sat in those pink tables, in those pink chairs, and I told her what had happened to me at 12 years old. And I'm sure some of you are in here tonight and you've had the phenomenon of hearing your story come out of another person's mouth in the recovery meeting. And that feeling of, me too, that's my story too. That happened to me too. And feeling that shame just kind of dissolve around you. And I wanted that feeling of isolation to leave her too. But just as important, I wanted to let her know what I had learned in hindsight. You know, about me wanting to escape my circumstances when I was 12 by a substance. See both of her parents suffer from this disease of alcoholism, and I wanted her to know that she didn't need to numb herself and she didn't need to run. And on the other side of this is this really beautiful life. I don't know exactly what my cousin's thorns are. I can't tell you what they are. But what I can tell you is that those prayers that I thought went unanswered when I was 12 years old were used for a greater purpose, so I could be stronger for another 12-year-old little girl. So I don't know what it is for you tonight. We gotta have this house. I gotta get this job. My loved one has to put down the bottle, or I have to put down the pills. And so you pray and you pray and you pray, and it doesn't happen. And in that moment, you may not understand, and you may not like it, but God, in his own way, in his own time, will show you that he's still sufficient and that his grace is enough. So you asked and you believed in it, and you didn't get it. And then one day, you just recognized that God had something different. And it would be so much better for me to stand up here and say better, that God had something better. But sometimes it's just different. So God's third answer to prayer is you need to grow first. The verb to pray in Hebrew is lehit palel. The word, by definition, is something that acts on us. God is progressively getting revealed to us through our actions and our decisions, the ones that we take. Prayer is not about us changing God's mind, but it's about God changing ours. And I want you to hear me that the person that God says yes to tomorrow may not be the person that he says no to today. We have to grow first. You know, last summer I was reading this book during this period of growth for me. Everything in my life was kind of shifting and changing. And this book was called The Boys in the Boat. And it was about 9 American rowers from Washington that won the gold medal in the 1936 Olympics. And there's this incredible exchange at one point in the book between the main character, Joe, who is part of this historic rowing team, and a gentleman named George Pocock, who was not only a brilliant rowing mind that helped this team out, but he also had a business making these boats, or rowing shells, as they're called. And he would make them and send them to schools all over the country. So Joe's deal is this. He's this natural talent, strong kid, just tough as nails. But he just seems to lose his composure from time to time. When he's in the boat, there are these moments of jaw-dropping excellence and just unprecedented speed across the water. But then there's also these moments where he loses focus and the boat, it just kind of follows suit, right? Like they're inconsistent. And so George Pocock, being the rowing expert that he is, he makes this commitment to show Joe and try to help him figure out this mental game, what's going on with him. And so he calls Joe down to his shop, and he starts to show him how he puts together these highly coveted boats. George is showing him the tools and the pieces and how it's nothing short of an art. He's got this divine respect for his craft. And at one point, he pulls out a cedar plank that he uses to make these boats, and he points to the growth rings in this cedar plank. And he uses it to tell the story of this tree's 2,000-year life. So here's a quick exchange from the book. The thickness and thinness spoke of hard years of bitter struggle, intermittent with rich years of sudden growth. The different colors spoke of various soils and minerals that the tree's roots encountered, some harsh and stunting, some rich and nourishing. Flaws and irregularities told of how the tree endured fires and lightning strikes, windstorms and infestations, and yet continued to grow. Almost as if there was something sacred about it. The wood taught us about growth, about overcoming difficulties and prevailing over adversity. But it also taught us something about the reason for growth in the first place. Something about infinite beauty and underlying grace, about things larger and greater than ourselves, about the reasons that we are all here. And I paused for a moment after reading that, and I asked myself, what is it about those rowers crossing the finish line after giving everything that they have that touches us so deeply? Or what is it about that cedar tree standing the test of time, those 2,000 years of adversity, only to triumphantly pierce the sky when all is said and done? Or what is it about feeling like you're in this season of drought and prayer, only to find that God was molding the most perfect circumstance and person for you to become into that? It moves us, and it tells us what we already know, yet forget in our heart's belief, but fail to see, that we are greater than the sum of our parts. Ernest Becker, when he was touching on the aspect of the human predicament, he was famously quoted saying that we are simultaneously worms and gods, earthly and divine. And I think it's in those moments, like the crossing of the finish lines, the growth that we experience through prayer, the times that we did more than we ever thought that we could. It's in those moments where God allows us to transcend the mundane and the everyday. And we're able to remind ourselves that, sure, we're merely human, but there's no aspects of us that are ordinary. The greatest power that one can ever witness is that of the human spirit, bending but never breaking, making light of the odds and the predictable. So know that if now looks different than what you prayed for, it's just part of your journey and an incredible part of your story. And if you find yourself in a season where God is saying yes to your prayer, cherish that. It's more precious than gold. And if you find yourself in a season where you feel like God isn't listening, remember that you'll look back on this growth ring of your life and be grateful that it gave you that which smooth sailing never could. See, at the end of the day, all that we have is what's in front of us, the next step and the next move, in the faith that all these pieces and all these prayers, no matter the answer that God gives us, will someday mean something. That standing the test of time will speak for itself. And at your finish line, whatever that may be for you, it will. And you'll look back and see, without your knowing or your awareness, that God propelled you into this very moment for a divine purpose. That those prayers took something more than the realms of dirt and worms and beyond the realms of humans operating in their day-to-day worlds. Your prayers and that growth and that relationship that was cultivated with God along the way allowed you for a moment in time to touch the infinite. Only if it was to prove to yourself that you could. And so, in these moments where we feel like God isn't listening, or we feel like, man, I'm just not getting the answer that I need, it can be really isolating. You can feel really alone. And this song, Another in a Fire, is a song that I always play whenever I feel like I need a reminder that when I'm trudging this road or walking through this fire, that there's another one right beside me, that God is right beside me and you. So here's Another in a Fire.
There's a grace when the heart is under fire, another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the walls, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding what power set me free, there is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fire. Oh, my dad left for dead beneath the water. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning, in a way I will bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the sea. Should I ever need reminding what power set me free, there is a grave that holds nobody. In me, I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between the waves leave. I can feel the ground shaking beneath us as the crazy walls came in, and nothing stands between us, and nothing stands between. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come on, me in the space between all the things unseen in this reckoning. I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the world.
In this recovery path, you are gifted with certain people that walk your path alongside of you. And Lance is one of those people in my life. And he's been a part of this community for quite some time now. And in fact, him and his fiancée, Tiffany, they are going to get married in this very room in October. So y'all help me welcome Lance up to the stage.
I'm doing well. Good evening, everyone. Wonderful to see everyone's beautiful faces, and welcome online.
Oh, awesome.
Good to see you.
So growing up, Lance, you experienced something that many of us addicts experience, this void inside of us that we try to fill with everything external. So what did that look like for you growing up?
I grew up what I consider fairly normal. I had a loving, caring family. We're really close. I got a younger brother. Growing up, high school, I felt out of place, very awkward, right? I lost a lot of my friends. I went to a big high school. I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't know how to be me, right? I tried to be something I wasn't, and I tried to play sports and get involved, but I never felt comfortable in my skin and who I was, and it was frustrating, right?
Yeah. And so your story is so important because you were never arrested. You never got a DUI. You didn't have any of these really extreme circumstances. You were a very high-functioning alcoholic. So was that difficult for you to realize that there was a problem, and what did that look like?
I tried. I got pulled over a few times, but grace of God now, looking back, I didn't get arrested and didn't have those types of consequences. Thinking back, it started out fun, right? It served a purpose. I had that liquid courage then, further in high school to know that, hey, I might not be very good at basketball, but I can, with the liquid courage, I can be funny and goofy and who I thought I was going to be. I was thinking just this morning of a story in high school, and I think sophomore year, and woke up and my mother had told me that my cousin had passed. He took his own life, and he was drinking a lot, and that he made the choice to take his own life. And I didn't really have any emotions around that. I didn't know how to have feelings around that kind of situation. Went through the day, and that night we went to a party, and I found comfort in first time I smoked pot was that night. Also the first and last time I had butter shots, because it was terrible, right? It made me sick. But I found that comfort. That was my now solution, right? Is the drinking. And through that, through my 20s, and I always drank excessively. There was never enough. And I had a lot of moments of aggression and being aggressive and just not handling it well, right? Not responsibly. That's how I knew. You don't know what you don't know.
Your brother is sober. And so during this time, you were able to see your brother and the transformation that came from his own sobriety. So what impact did that have on you when you're still in active addiction? Man,
that kid was an awful, awful drunk, awful human, right? I'm looking at him. It's like looking at myself in a mirror, right? He frustrated me so much, the way he was aggressive and acting and angry. And then, yes, he found sobriety. And it was a few years after his recovery, he was at a speaker meeting. And I was amazed. This kid that just frustrated the heck out of me was a terrible little brother because he never did what I wanted him to do. And here he's just a great man, influencing people and just calm and collected. He was a different man up there. And near after that, I had asked him for help. He suggested that I go to a meeting.
So tell me about your first meeting that you went to.
I was so scared. It was a 7:30 meeting. I think it's 4 or 5 o'clock, and my brother was going to come, my mom was going to come, and I got so scared because I know what happens when you go to a meeting. I saw in my brother, you quit drinking. What's life going to be without?
Don't do that to us.
Yeah. I mean, what's going to happen with my life, and how am I going to live without my solution, my mistress, everything that comforts me and loves me when I can't love myself? And I said, well, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab dinner. I'm married at the time. And I left. I went to pick up dinner at the restaurant my best friend was the bartender at. And I said, dude, I'm going to this AA meeting thing. You're not supposed to, they want you to quit drinking, but can you please pour me like as much bourbon as possible? So I was, yeah.
So you had some liquid courage going into your first AA meeting.
All the liquid courage, which just turned into tears, right? I'm sitting there in the back of the room. I'm crying. I'm relating. And man, if those people didn't corner me and love me and make me feel so uncomfortable yet welcoming, I didn't know what to do. Yeah, I was still really defiant. I still felt like I could figure it out, right? That's how I grew up. I didn't know how to be vulnerable, so it was try harder, do better, or don't do it all. Yeah. Just quit.
Yep. So you had this period of time where you really didn't go back to a meeting, but you're like, man, I'm going to quit drinking. And you did for a year and a half. And I had a similar experience too in my own recovery where I was in active addiction. And then I had these 11 months where I just removed the alcohol. And I was just as miserable and just as isolated and just as depressed. Like I thought I was just destined to be this awful human being. And without a solution and without a little spiritual elegance in my life, that's how it was going to be. So what did that year and a half look like for you?
I really grasped onto the one day at a time, right? That I could do. One day at a time, don't drink. And I obsessed. Right? I obsessed over all of these obsessions, these wants, anything I couldn't have, and the fears. And I was a tyrant. I was a miserable human being. Nobody liked me. I was managing, I remember managing a guy, and he's going to celebrate 11, 12 years sober soon. 16 years, sorry, I apologize. 16 years at 60. And the guy went to headbutt me. I mean, he told me, I wish you were drinking. You're such a jerk. I'm like, okay.
Isn't that interesting that we can be, as alcoholics or addicts, just as awful with or without the substance if we don't get down to the causes and conditions? Like, that was just a fascinating development to me, that it's not the substance, but it's this hole within me that I'm trying to fill with the substance. Like, that's just a symptom. So how did you find long-term recovery? What did that look like? Like real recovery?
Year and a half, untreated alcoholism, my disease, and I was off to the races for about another year. And I mean, I was so shameful. I was going through a divorce, a separation. I didn't want to live anymore, right? And my disease was just off to the races. And I had a day where all I wanted to do was drink. I figured that was my life. And knowing what my brother had been through, knowing the support that I could find, I went to a meeting because I knew if I got rid of the booze, I'd be okay, right? The drinking and the drugging, I'd be all right. And went in desperation. I made it 64 days. And life keeps going, and I was still not willing to give myself to a program, to a 12-step program, and I went back out, and it just kept getting worse. Adding these layers to the oak.
Yeah. And so finally, you find a man and ask him for help, a man in the program, and ask him for help, and you immediately sit down and start doing the work with him.
Most difficult question, right, is reaching out to another guy, calling him and like, hey, what's going on? and that awkward pause, like I'm asking this man on a date.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like, "What's going on?" I had seen him, but I never met him. And he's like, "All right, we're gonna meet." And we met, and I just vomited everything I'd been packing down for years, all the frustrations, all the shame, and it scared me. So I turned to my, mistress, and that's the last drunk I had.
Yeah.
But taking that action and asking for help, there was a different feeling. Something different was happening.
Yeah. So 4 days later, you're 4 days sober, and you have this rock bottom moment where you realize that it's not just alcohol that was the problem.
Yes, I got the opportunity to go play softball. I don't play softball. I'm awful at it, but I'm trying new things. I'm making changes, and went out. Great night, but I spent the rest of the night with a good friend and someone that I was actively drinking, using with, and they just berated me. They're like, "You are such a piece of crap, and you are worthless, and you're never gonna change." And I had nothing. I was so at my weakest point, right? I was at my weakest point. And, typically I would have said, "You're right, I'll change, I'll do different." Like, I had none of that.
You were humbled.
I was very much humbled. There was something working for me that night.
Yeah. Because it's at that level of humility and surrender that we can kind of build on that foundation to go up. Yeah. So in early recovery, it was really difficult for you to find a God of your understanding. Like, it was, the God thing wasn't resonating with you. So how did you finally come to something that resonated with you?
Yeah, I didn't grow up in a church. I would say we were Christians. My mom grew up, but she really left it, both my parents, up to my brother and I to find our belief. And I didn't relate to how other people would share about their God previously or wherever they were. And someone was talking that they turned their life over to love, right? Like, God is love to them. And that I could really get behind. I felt that. I've been given that through different situations. And, now it's still that feeling, that emotion, of love and kindness, right? I try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. I'll never forget one of the most profound moments I've ever had at Free. It was at our old building, and it was in this little strip mall. It was like 4,000 square feet. You'll remember, some of you. And so Ryan, he would pose a question to the group when he ended his sermon. And so the question on this particular day was, "What is God? What is God to you?" And the building, it was so small that he could walk from the podium to go grab a refill of his coffee in about 30 seconds. And so he poses that question, and I'm sitting there thinking, what is God? He's the Alpha, the Omega. I start doing like differential equations in my head, and I'm just overthinking the whole thing. And then this little 5-year-old girl is Madison Cottrell, Ben Cottrell's daughter, and I didn't know them at the time. And she turns to her dad, and she goes, "God is love. Everyone knows that." And then she goes on to doing like the next thing, and I just remember like this big mic drop in my mind, like, oh my God, like, leave it to a 5-year-old to just like drop some spiritual knowledge on you, and that has always stuck with me. So if you're struggling with the idea of God, or it's just something that doesn't resonate with you, the feeling of love, that's something to catch on to in the beginning.
You had the Corinthians 12:9 or 2, and Corinthians 13 with just love, right? Love being most important, right? It just still motivates me and helps me through life.
Yeah. One of the most important parts of your recovery is working with other men now and taking them through the same work that saved your life. But at 18 months sober, you had you struggled with that feeling of not being worthy to, I can't take another person through this work. I'm not worthy to do this. How can I do this? How did you get past that at 18 months sober?
I'm sober. I'm working a program. I have guys I talk to. I suit up and I show up, but where's my usefulness, right? Can I be useful? Am I worthy? You know, like, can I give back? And, you know, that feeling again of not being enough.
Good enough, yeah.
Good enough. And, you know, I finally started opening up, you know, and seeking other ways to be of service, to be of maximum love and service. I started doing a lot more prayer and meditation, and being able to really manifest some good things in my life. And by really going inwards and working on me, right? Things don't change if they don't change. And I was willing and open to get real with myself and shine the light on those dark crevices. You know, like you said, filling that void in my heart, in my soul. And yeah, I got the opportunity to work with a few gentlemen. You know, a few of them are still sober, but it is the most rewarding feeling to give back and to be of love and service.
To take care of God's kids and let God take care of us.
Exactly. It's no longer Lance's show. I'm not the director because you all didn't listen to me anyhow.
Yeah, that's right. Lance, what is the word of hope to the person who's still out there struggling and trying to fill that void with all the external instead of looking inward? What is the word of hope you would give them?
I love when you end with this question, when we end with this question. This one has been sitting on my heart. You know, it feels like 1,000 days since you asked me to come up here. For those of you, you're one decision away from making a change in your life. One action away from doing different. And, you know, these decisions that we make shape our destiny, and these actions, as long as they're backed by massive action, right? We got to take the right action. God don't row.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, but he'll move mountains if we're willing to bring a shovel and put the work in.
Yep.
I would also say ask for help.
Yeah.
Help. And that we believe in you and we love you.
Well, Lance, thanks for being here with us tonight. We're so excited to have your wedding in this room in a few months. Something that never would have happened had you never had taken some action and quit playing the director. So thanks for being here tonight.
Life's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, Lance. Give it up for him. Well, we go out in a similar way as we come in with celebrations, but instead it's with heartaches. And we want to be there with you and walk this fire with you that you're in. So whatever heartache you are going through or whatever prayer you would like us to pray with you, raise your hand. And Austin's got a mic over here. We'll get Darren on another mic. And we'll take 3 minutes and then get with our online community on heartaches.
Hi, I'm Kendra. I just wanted to wish my dad a happy celestial 79th birthday. He's passed, but and it's been hard as far as our relationship. But he's in my heart. His birthday's tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, we're praying for your dad and for you, lifting that up for sure. Thank you. What else can we lift up tonight?
My name's Roddy. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. October last year, I found out I have chronic kidney disease, and I'm in the process of trying to find a kidney donor and get a kidney transplant. So some prayers would be helpful. Thank you.
Praying for you, Rodney, and your kidney and your journey. Lifting that up for sure.
Hi, I'm Camille. Just prayers up for my best friend's daughter. She is in Lutheran Hospital. She was born with stomach cancer, and she's paralyzed. And she has a horrible, horrible, life-threatening infection in her spine. They started dialysis 2 days ago. Last night she was intubated, and it's literally one day at a time.
Yeah.
So if you could all keep her in your prayers. Her name is Brittany, and she's a beautiful human. Thank you.
Lifting Brittany up and praying for her.
Hi, I'm Bobby, and I'm going to ask that we all pray for both my sister and my cousin who are fighting breast cancer. And so I think they can use a little extra help. Thanks.
Yeah, Bobby, we're lifting up your sister. Is there anyone else that we can lift up? We have 20 seconds left.
Yeah, my name's Bailey. About a year ago, my little dog got stolen, and when she did, I lost all my faith, so I'm just trying to find it again.
Bailey, we're lifting that up. Well, Austin, are you going to join me up here?
Yeah, I will.
Austin is part of our home team here at Free. So if y'all are looking for a friendly face or need help with where the bathrooms are or, anything, he knows. Yeah. So go with Austin.
Do you have a favorite side like Ryan? Or?
No, I don't do the Ryan Kennedy dance. I appreciate you asking, but I'm not OCD like him. So you can take the first one, Austin.
Frank says, prayers, please. In hospital with stomach disorder, but staying sober. Thank you. Got you in our prayers, Frank.
Lifting you up, Frank. All right, we have Roger continuing praying for all those who are struggling with sobriety. We'll lift that up for sure. And that red dot means that that's it from the online community tonight. So thanks, Austin. All right, you guys, it is because of your generous donations that we're able to break the silence here at Free and create a space for healing and recovery and spiritual connection. So here at Free, there's a couple donation boxes throughout the building, one right here and one over by the coffee bar. And then there are 3 ways to donate online. The first is that you can text Be the Wagon to the number that's on your screen. The second, you can go online, freespiritualcommunity.com. There's a drop-down tab for the giving. It's a secure location for donations. And then the last one is to download our free app. And if you guys don't have this app, it's a great app. It has all of our sermons and what's going on here at Free. But there's also a giving tab on that app. So we're going to go out with a prayer. Tonight we're going to go out with a serenity prayer. So if y'all are comfortable with opening up your hands as a sign of openness, if you are not familiar with the serenity prayer, it is on your screen. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you all for being here tonight. Be well and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.